Doug and I knew each other from summers at Camp Swig, where I was a song leader, and both Doug and Ellen were on the program staff. Doug was a rabbinical student at the time in Los Angeles, and he had an internship at Temple Emmanuel of Beverly Hills. And it's through that connection that he was invited to conduct the Seder at the home of Groucho Marx. Well, Doug, not being very musical, decided to call me and invite me to join him, and I was elated beyond belief because I'm a huge Groucho Marx fan. So Doug and Ellen and I arrive at the house. We're the first ones there, and we're greeted and welcomed in. Groucho says to Doug, "So, you're the rabbi?" And Doug, only being halfway through rabbinical school at the time, said, "Actually, I'm only half rabbi." And Groucho, without missing a beat, says, "Half rabbi and half what? Half-assed?" It was an amazing evening. The house was filled with Hollywood luminaries. Ed Begley Jr. was there, Georgie Jessel was there, Marvin Hamlish was there. They all entertained each other after dinner for like an hour. Doug conducted a beautiful Seder, complete with the afikoman. The grandchildren were turning the house upside down. At the end of the evening, Doug and Ellen and I were invited back to Groucho's bedroom, where he already was in bed wearing his signature stocking cap, and on television was the best of Groucho.
And now, here he is, the one, the only... That's me, Groucho Marx!
Doug, you have been my teacher, my role model, and most of all, my friend. And I want you to know, if you ever get invited to conduct a Hollywood Seder again, I'll be there.
Welcome. I'm Geraldine Gelt, President of the Board of Directors of the JCRC. I'll bet most of you didn't know that Doug was Groucho's personal rabbi. Well, you're going to learn a lot more about him tonight. But first, I have a couple of announcements. One is for all you diehard Giants fans. We will let you know if there's anything important that happens during this next half hour. And second, even more importantly, for those of you who are parked in the garage, just stop at the desk on the way out and tell them you want event parking rates, and they'll give it to you. So, tonight, as we honor our very own Rabbi Doug Kahn on the occasion of his 30th anniversary with JCRC, I want also to express our appreciation for all of you. You're our devoted members of the JCRC Board and Metropolitan and Regional Councils. You're our enthusiastic volunteers, generous supporters, community leaders, and allies from a multitude of interfaith and interethnic coalitions. JCRC's work in pursuit of a just society and a secure Jewish future could not happen without you. Thank you for supporting JCRC and for honoring Doug in this special way. I want to especially acknowledge our generous high score sponsors for their tremendous support of tonight's program. Lisa and Douglas Goldman, Marcia and John Goldman, the San Francisco-based Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund, and Ingrid Tauber and Frank Teforo. And thank you to our generous triple word sponsors, Dr. Kathy Fields Rayant and Dr. Gary Rayant, the Friend family, Bethany and Jim Hornthal, Lisa and John Pritzker, Barbara and Richard Rosenberg, David and Ann Stearman, Rosalind Croman-Swig, Diane and Howard Zach. We are also delighted to be joined this evening by several dignitaries, including the Israeli Consul General, Andy David, Deputy Consul General Gideon Lustig, Supervisor Scott Wiener, City Treasurer Jose Cisneros, and Hillsborough City Council member Tom Kasten. Tonight's wonderful evening could not have been possible without the ingenuity, imagination, and incredible dedication of our event chairs, Ingrid and Frank Teforo, Bethany and Jim Hornthal, and Eve Bernstein and Alex Gershnowitz. I also want to acknowledge the contributions of Vice President and Development Co-Chair Howard Kleckner and former JCRC staffer Julie Bernstein. And many thanks to the unparalleled JCRC staff, particularly Associate Executive Director Abby Porth, John Feldman, and Jackie Kennedy for their phenomenal work. Doug's impact on the community is immeasurable, in no small part because of all the work he does behind the scenes to safeguard the conditions under which our community flourishes. But tonight, he gets to relax and simply enjoy the evening. To celebrate his anniversary, we wanted to share with everyone a couple of Doug's personal passions. He loves playing words with friends, as you may have gleaned from your invitations. And he also loves the movies. So this evening, we are all guests at Doug's personal Oscar Awards ceremony. It is now my honor and my pleasure to introduce another exceptional community leader, Sissy Swig, who will present the first award of the evening. Sissy?
Well, good evening, and thank you very much, Geraldine. This is such a pleasure. Tonight, we recognize the best advocate for 30 years in the community relations field. And advocacy requires a personable and an affable style, intellectual acuity, endless creativity, and expert persuasion. Our leading advocate must be able to earn trust and listen with equanimity to parties on all sides of the issue and find common ground in order to pursue the right path forward. Here then is tonight's nominee for Best Advocate for 30 years in the Jewish community relations field.
I imagine Rabbi Doug Kahn in his early 20s at Camp Swig, and he has a fire in his belly, a passion for social justice, for tikkun olam, for creating a better world. And he has this idea, and he presents it to the camp director. The idea is to create a program focused around social justice and advocacy. And rather than focusing on the evening programs of just recreation, he wanted to create something with additional meaning and additional significance in these young persons' lives. And that was the birth of the Hevrah program 40 years ago, and it continues to thrive at Camp Newman today. Doug, with total ruach and total love and total admiration, I want to thank you for creating that vision and that dream and creating a culture for all of us so that when we are asked who's going to change the world, we all say we all are.
As a student at Cal in the late 60s, Doug got involved in what was then known as the student struggle for Soviet Jewry. This blended his grassroots activism impulses with his Jewish commitments. In 1982, Doug joined the JCRC, and one of his first areas of emphasis was the Soviet Jewry movement. Each year, thousands of people would show up at the Soviet consulate at Green Street to demonstrate on behalf of freedom for Soviet Jews. In earlier years of this demonstration, we would drop off our petition, slip it under the gate, hope that it would be retrieved. One year, with thousands of people watching, we went up, rang the doorbell, and the door opened. And we were invited inside to present our petition to the consular officials, who assured us it would be passed along to Moscow. Doug, you should be so proud of what you accomplished with the Soviet Jewry movement here in the Bay Area. It was classic Doug Kahn, bringing together people from across the spectrum by finding that which unified us rather than divided us, and making it possible for every element of the Jewish community to participate in this extraordinary experience of advocating for Soviet Jews.
When I observed upon the call from Rabbi Kahn, a depiction at San Francisco State of the Jewish community that was not pleasant, not kind, not loving. Immediately, I went to speak in no uncertain terms that depiction that was on that wall was wrong, and it should come down. And it was taken down. He's quiet, consistent, and courageous. And you can always depend on him to be on the right side of issues. And he does not duck and dodge. He will take a stand.
For the past 14 years as an elected official, I've come to even better understand the significance of the work that Doug has done at JCRC. Of course, we worked together on the circumcision ban this past year, and to this day, I'm still the recipient of some protests from some of the intactivists. I don't know that Doug's position has rabbinic training as a prerequisite, but I think it serves him and JCRC very well, because it takes the wisdom of Solomon at times to be able to deal with many of the issues that come before JCRC, and making sure that we continue to keep a strong community fighting for democratic values and protection of religious freedoms and all of the ancillary issues that attend to those. Doug, we need you. We need your voice. We need your thoughtfulness. We need your wise counseling.
It's a really tough act of advocacy to be that kind of a strong advocate without alienating others, and Doug has that skill as very few other people do. One really important example of Doug's advocacy had to do with the Bay Area's response to a lot of governmental activity following Israel stopping the Gaza flotilla. As is Doug's way, the first thing that he did, and maybe the most important thing that he did, is the one that very few people knew about. He went to the Board of Supervisors to make sure that there was not going to be an up or down vote at the end of the night, no matter which way the debate went.
The San Francisco Board of Supervisors would serve San Francisco best.
Doug arranged for scores of people from throughout the community to come to fill the Board of Supervisors room and to speak. He and Abby were there for over 6.5 hours until finally, after midnight, Doug took the microphone.
Never could I have imagined that City Hall might become an enabler.
And when Doug takes the microphone in his calm and measured and reasoned and intelligent way, everybody listens to what he says, and everybody is convinced by what he says.
Tonight's award for the Best Advocate for 30 years in the Jewish community relations field goes to Doug Kahn. And here to accept the award on Doug's behalf are Howard and Wendy Kleckner, who are great champions of JCRC. And this is for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Sissy. And tonight we recognize the best counselor for 30 years in the community relations field. A counselor serves in the most confidential, trusted, and behind-the-scenes role, grappling with complex and highly sensitive issues. An effective counselor is counted upon to maintain a broad perspective for the community while offering sage and concrete guidance. The counselor's role is round the clock as coach, mentor, and guide. And here then is tonight's nominee for Best Counselor for 30 years and the community relations field.
I guess I've known Doug for about 30 years. He knows my values. He knows the values of the BJE. And of course, he represents the values of the community. So when he gives us advice, he's not just telling us what's the easy way out. Anyone could do that. I know that already. He's helping me navigate a really thorny, difficult terrain with the best approach that both takes into account, community issues as well as our deeply held values. That's what I really value about Doug and why I really trust him so much.
My relationship with Doug has really, on a professional level, has really been one as a real true counselor to me and to the JCCSF.
And Doug has been and is and will continue to be my go-to person.
Yeah, I totally understand that, David. For me, Doug is an inside outsider. He's outside the organization, yet when I call him, he understands everything that's going on the inside. And to have that person, that is literally a phone call away. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm calling him, and he's answering a question. He and Abby and the other JCRC staff, the email seems to happen 24 hours a day. So it's also recognizing that we're dealing with timely issues, and him being able to respond in order to put at ease is really a remarkable thing. Heck, when I'm on an international flight and it's chicken or beef, I call Doug.
I never believed in consensus. I was the type of person that if something needed to be acted upon, I'd make the decision and deal with the ramifications later. I was in a position in 2005 where for the first time my board was divided over an issue. And I called Doug up and I said, I've got a real problem. He wrote a memo for me that he felt would help me reach consensus on a divided board of directors. And it did. Doug's counsel to me was wonderful. He just took my hand and helped me solve the whole situation.
Doug sits on a kind of a pedestal, and one goes to Doug and one seeks from Doug these big answers. And they're not only do you get big answers, but you get it in a way that tells you that to this man you matter. I think when people call Doug, they feel better about themselves and about their pathway than they could have ever felt before picking up the phone. That's the magic. Doug Kahn's reputation nationally is the best of the best.
In today's world, where there's so much divisiveness, both within the Jewish community and throughout our world with respect to Jews and Israel, Doug is both a gift and a rarity.
Whenever the Federation board, let's say, is exposed to Doug at all, there is this feeling of relief that he has our back with respect to the community, with respect to issues that might come up, and he's the first person everyone would think about whenever there would be an issue. And just knowing that he's there makes all of us feel better and feel safe and know that as a counselor, he's there for us.
The particular relationship that I have with Doug is unique among all my relationships, because I know that when I pick up the phone, that I have a person on the other end of the phone who is 100% trustworthy, who will work through an issue with me until I'm satisfied that the result is the sort of big tent approach to community consensus that the Federation in particular among agencies really needs. He frees us up to pursue our core mission, which is to create the maximum philanthropic impact that we can.
And I am so grateful for the relationship that Jen and Doug have, because in the role that I play as president of the board of the Federation, I know that I can go about my business knowing that those two are solving the problems of the community.
Tonight's award for the best counselor for 30 years in the Jewish community relations field goes to Doug Kahn. And here to accept the award on Doug's behalf is Douglas Goldman, longtime friend of Doug Kahn and a devoted supporter of JCRC.
Thank you, Wendy and Howard. You know, there's a great opportunity for us sports fans that there are 3 giants in town tonight. But anyway, that's way off script, I'm sorry. Tonight we recognize the Best Innovator. This is now the award for Best Innovator for 30 years in the community relations field. Innovation requires good old-fashioned San Francisco qualities: pioneering spirit, intellectual curiosity, entrepreneurial vision, strategic leadership, creative and bold ideas, and do-it-yourself diligence and hard work. The innovator identifies needs, seizes opportunities, and incubates new ideas until they flourish. And he does so with political savvy and menschlichkeit, a word I've been known to use quite frequently. Let's see, tonight's nominee for Best Innovator for 30 years in the Jewish community relations field, please.
When I think of outstanding professionals that I've had the good fortune to work with, I think of 3 qualities that Doug Kahn personifies. The first is vision, the second is leadership, and the third is endurance. Doug demonstrated vision in many ways. As an innovator, I saw him in a number of projects. I think of the emergency security measures that went into place in San Francisco well before the Intifada and any of the Al-Qaeda and events of 9/11. That's the best kind of vision, prevention before a problem occurs. Another example of Doug's vision is the Jewish Coalition for Literacy, which exists to this day, engaging volunteers in service to the general community. Doug understood the importance of the idea and has continued this element of community relations at its best.
What I love about Doug is his ability to look at the community from a higher place, outside the constraints of an organization, and to say, what's needed, what's missing. An example of Doug's really innovation and his vision was an ability to see that there was a gap in the community in terms of Israel. So it's hard to believe, but almost 20 years ago, we created the Israel Center, one of the most innovative projects that I think has ever happened in the San Francisco Bay Area community, and could not have happened without Doug's vision, his steadfastness, his ability to see trends in the community and say, how do we address it?
I've been exceptionally grateful for the opportunity to learn from Doug every day for the last 13 years. He's a tremendous role model, and he mentors and leads the entire team by modeling for us integrity, compassion, wisdom. He's endlessly creative. He's an innovator, and he sees his role as one of counseling all of us in how to do the best job we possibly can.
Of late, I've had the great fortune to work with Doug on the Institute for Curriculum Services. That is influencing public school textbooks and instructional materials in anything regarding Jews, Judaism, and Israel. And Doug understood and persisted until he was able, and it wasn't easy, to receive funding and support for this project. And I was one of those who became persuaded all along the way.
Doug's so unique in his ability to create a collective vision. It's not Doug's vision, it's the community's vision. And Doug shepherds us. He brings in the best of us, he brings in our best thoughts and our best values and creates a collective vision that we can all share.
Come on. We want to see you jumping. We want to see you dancing.
And I think the best example of that is bringing Israel Independence Day into the gardens, into Yerko Buena Center, the most public place in San Francisco, and to have a day of celebration that reaches over 10,000 people every year. And without Doug, we could have never made that happen.
Tonight's award for the Best Innovator for 30 years in the Jewish community relations field goes to, are there any Karnak the Magnificent fans here? I don't know. Oh, we have an unusual winner, Doug Kahn. Thank you. Here to accept the award on Doug's behalf is Maha El-Ganaidi, Executive Director of the Islamic Networks Group, an ally and interfaith partner and friend to Doug and the JCRC for decades.
Thank you so much, Doug. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Shalom alaikum. I'm very honored to be here. Doug has been a friend of mine for the last 20 years or so. He and I have worked on many campaigns together, especially around Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. Tonight, we recognize the best ambassador for 30 years in the community relations field. An ambassador's job is tremendously challenging and demands that one have a keen understanding of the community's traditions and interests. An ambassador selects the right words at the right moment, fostering mutual understanding, inter-community cooperation, and ultimately social harmony. Here then is tonight's nominee for Best Ambassador for 30 years.
I've always experienced Doug Kahn as a diplomat, an ambassador. He is somebody who has integrity, someone who is unflappable, and I've seen him in circumstances where I was flapping around and he wasn't. He has a unique capacity for building bridges across what would normally be dividing lines of positions in politics, in the secular world, in the religious world. And he does it with tremendous grace and a great sense of humor. It's to Doug that we look when we want to understand the rich traditions of Judaism in human rights, civil rights, in politics, in religion, wherever it is. Doug represents the best in all of that.
Rita Semmel and I were both involved in hiring Doug. He established himself in our eyes as an activist for Jewish causes. When he was a sophomore at the University of California, he appeared at a rally that we held to protest a French sale of arms to Libya.
I've always admired him for his ability to find a cause, to zero in on it, and to do what needs to be done. It always gives me a great deal of pleasure when an issue comes up and we need a Jewish representative. And I know that there's Doug, who will always step up to the plate and be that representative in the best way possible.
He's been an ambassador to the national Jewish community as well, to the general community. So that he's fulfilled this tradition and he's magnified it. And I think we both feel proud that we were involved in bringing him on board.
My experience with the JCRC sponsored trip to Israel was transformative.
We went everywhere. We went to so many different kinds of places and met so many different kinds of people.
It's a lot of work. I mean, you don't get to relax a little bit at all because Doug has you going from morning till night.
We met a Palestinian journalist. We met a Bedouin woman. We met a woman who's advocating for equality for women at the Wailing Wall and generally in Israeli society. We met peace activists. We met a Knesset member who's openly gay.
I know the impact that it had on me in terms of my world view and how I came in touch with my own spirituality and how that informs how I've developed as a person. And a big part of that is because of the leadership of Doug Kahn and the continuity that we have had together through the years since that trip. And I don't think there's any greater testament to the effectiveness of a leader to make sure that you have built that continuity into an organization. And I think that that is perhaps Doug Kahn's greatest gift to JCRC.
He really showed us not just a facade of Israel or a one point of view, but rather sort of Israel in all its diversity with all its many voices.
I don't care what your religion is. You can't help but be moved and get in touch with your own spirituality. As I was walking the Stations of the Cross with Doug Kahn, and Doug was standing next to me, and I had a conversation with him as to what that meant for me as a product of a Catholic high school, a Catholic college, and someone who did a fair amount of catechism. And to be having this conversation with this rabbi about what it meant to me as a Catholic, I thought it spoke volumes about him as a person and about what JCRC is and the feeling of friendship and collaboration that it seeks to build. And I credit Doug Kahn with all the good that comes out of that.
There were many incredible moments on the trip, but the one that really changed me the most was our visit to Yad Vashem, which brought home in a way that kind of made real that something that I couldn't really even imagine before, which was the scope of the Holocaust. When you look at the persecution from Masada all the way through the Holocaust of Jewish people, there has to be a Jewish state. There has to be a place that Jews can call their own and know that they will be safe. And Israel is that place.
Tonight's award for the Best Ambassador for 30 years in the Jewish Community Relation field goes to, and I have the envelope. I wonder who it might be. Oh, surprise, surprise. Doug Kahn. Here to accept the award on Doug's behalf are Bethany and Jim Hornthal.
Well, thank you, Maha. And so far tonight, we've been giving out awards in recognition of the many roles that Rabbi Doug Kahn plays in the Jewish community relations field.
For our last category of the evening, we'll be going behind the metaphorical curtain in order to focus on what else it takes to complete the story.
Because in truth, we're not only here to honor a consummate professional, we're honoring an individual with integrity, with compassion, with a wonderful sense of humor, who loves words with friends, and has a unique blend of interests and hobbies.
So for our last chapter and our last category of the evening, we bring you a glimpse of the father, the friend, and the husband. We bring you a glimpse of the nominee himself.
So I think I've got this figured out. We land Sunday night, so we can go see the museum on Monday morning.
No. What Doug said is that the museums are closed on Monday, so that's not going to work. We can't go to the museum on Monday.
Okay, well, if we can't go to the museum, there's a really great restaurant I found for lunch, and we can go there on Monday.
Oh, wait. Doug called, and he said that we have to go to something about 2 maggots. I can't remember the exact name, like de maggots or something. So I think that's the first place that we should go.
It's really frustrating. I spent my entire professional career building a company that can't do half of what Doug can do on a bad day. So why don't you just tell me what we're going to do?
Well, Doug is the Rick Steves of the Jewish community and the general community when it comes to travel, as far as I'm concerned. Do you remember we were in Denmark? And I realized that I didn't have enough souvenirs to bring home. And so you said to me, let's call Doug. Doug has an answer to everything, right? So we'll call Doug. And this was like 10 years ago. And Doug was probably the only person that knew how to use internet search. And so we called Doug, and he gave him a street name. And he said, well, just give me a minute. And we said, well, it's long distance, so don't take that with me being cheap. And so he comes right back, and he says, okay, I have it. You go 2 blocks down and you turn left, and there's a store, and he gave us the name of the store, and you'll find everything there. And I am not kidding you. We went 2 blocks down, turned left, and there was the most incredible arts and crafts store, and we bought absolutely everything we needed, and then we were ready to leave Denmark.
I have the most respect for him
of anybody, and he has a great impact on people. He's an excellent problem solver. He is a remarkable Scrabble player. He knows how to balance his life. He's really, really good at balancing his life. He gets his work done extremely efficiently, and he has time to go to the movies. I'm so happy that he's my dad.
Every Yom Kippur we'd have a discussion, and I would sit on the bima and I'd give a timely sermon, and I realized that there was someone who could talk about timely issues better than I could, and I felt so grateful that we had a teacher like Doug. He's my teacher. He was a congregations teacher, and a very good and fine friend as well.
I can't think of many people who could fit in equally well on a panel of distinguished international thinkers discussing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and in a sorority house discussing the merits of the latest episode of The Bachelor.
The fact that I can always call you and seek your guidance and counsel and help on grant applications, how to run my organization, how to just live a good and fulfilling life. Because I love that you are still doing what you love, and you've been there for so many years. And in many ways, I think this is living the dream. And as I get older, I learn more and more that it's not just about some highfalutin fantasy, but really day in, day out, getting to do the things you care about and getting to be passionate about the people and the things you love. And here you have a family. You know, I don't know, it's like something cliche, but I think there's something nice about it, that a definition of success as when you grow up, your children will still want to spend time with you. And God knows Joe and I only want to spend more time with you.
I love Doug. I love Doug for his cheerfulness, for his acceptance, for his kindness. In Doug's community, everybody does have to win. Remarkable man.
So Doug is the first person I think of going to when contemplating a decision, any decision, whether it be community-based, philanthropic, personal, or notably any travel decision. I want to mention one of our trips that Frank and I took with Doug and Ellen several years ago. We were traveling to Berlin on the yard side of my mother, searching for the home she had grown up in. Doug surprised me with not only finding the site, but other pertinent discoveries that led me down an important family trail. I am eternally grateful for the gifts of that trip to Berlin. Doug, we feel blessed to have you and Ellen, Joey and Daniel in our lives.
He has been the most remarkable friend to us, and Ellen too, and Doug, we cherish you. We really do. Forever.
Doug and I met in 1973 in Israel. I was 17 years old and was going into my senior year of high school, and he was just starting rabbinic school. He'd graduated from college, he was 22. And he'd heard that my group was going to meet David Ben-Gurion, and he thought, well, Ben-Gurion probably won't be alive much longer. I really should get on this group and go meet Ben-Gurion. So he managed to get invited, and we met. And we started this whirlwind of dating in Israel for an entire week. We say that Ben-Gurion introduced us. After our whirlwind week of dating in Jerusalem, my group was leaving for the Sinai Desert, and we were going to be there for a week, and I was going to have my bat mitzvah on the top of Mount Sinai. A few days later, while we were in the Sinai Desert, our bus had broken down on the side of some desert road. I'm not even sure there was a road there, and up comes walking Doug Kahn. Out of nowhere, it was like a mirage, and he's holding a piece of cheesecake and silver candlesticks for my bat mitzvah. When I think of you, Doug, I am so grateful for all of the years that we have shared, these 37 years of marriage and our extraordinary family time together, our two great sons, how you've supported me so much so that I could build the career that I wanted. I couldn't have asked for a greater partner, and I'm so proud of you and so grateful for all that you have done, not just for our community, but for our family. With all my love.
I'm going to put this on my head, and I hope nobody else gets to see this video, Doug. And for you, I'm going to play the Cal fight song. I'm sorry, Doug, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm a UCLA guy. I just can't do it.
So, as you probably can guess, tonight's award for the best himself for 61 years goes to
the one and only Doug Kahn.
And here to accept the award on Doug's behalf are Ingrid Tauber and Frank Taffero, very close friends of Doug and Ellen's.
Joining them are Douglas and Lisa Goldman, Amy Lyons of the John and Marcia Goldman Foundation, Jennifer Gorvitz, and Sissy Swig, all of whom are friends and tremendous supporters of the JCRC.
You're here. That was an amazing video. Special thanks to the producers, Bethany Hornthal and Barry Scheinberg, whose creativity lights each corner of these chapters of Doug. And a special thanks to Abby Porth, who's been our anchor, orchestrating this entire event every step of the way. Okay, so Doug, we have one more surprise for you tonight. I know that for you, one of the important aspects of what you do at JCRC involves your trips to Israel, where leaders of our community meet the most dynamic Israeli leaders and are exposed to the vibrant and spiritual landscape of the country. As you know, and as we just experienced in the video, these trips have a profound and lasting impact on the participants. So in thinking of this huge milestone of 30 years of service and your legacy with JCRC, our thoughts turn to the importance of these trips that Richard and Rhoda Goldman generously supported for many years. Taking the next step forward, I thought of reaching out to Doug and Lisa Goldman, knowing that they too embraced and are committed to perpetuating these same values. From there, we connected with John and Marcia Goldman, John and Lisa Pritzker, Sissy Swig, and the San Francisco Federation. Together, all of us created the Doug Kahn Israel Travel Fund and have contributed $1,150,000 to support these trips in the years to come. Doug, we wanted to provide you with a gift that demonstrates the community's deep and abiding trust in you, and we wanted to provide a way in which you could continue to go from strength to strength as you shine your magical gifts on this community. Doug, please come forward and accept all these exceptional awards in your honor. Thank you.
Was it Sally Fields who said something like, they like me? They really like me?
We love you.
Truly just trying to compose myself. My kids would say the only time I really cry is at great sporting events, like when, say, Buster Posey hits a grand slam. That's not an announcement. But this really got me. I was totally, completely, 100% surprised, shocked, and grateful beyond measure by this extraordinary gift and this extraordinary announcement and this extraordinary evening. Is there a way we could turn the lights on maybe so I could see everybody? Is that okay to do? Great, thank you. I have to confess something. I really enjoyed watching the film. I don't know. I had no clue what anything was going to be tonight. My staff blessedly kept me completely clueless. The only thing I did was stuff the envelopes. So thank you all for being here while I watched this unbelievable trip down memory lane and was reminded every minute about why I feel that I have the best job in the world, because I have had this unbelievable opportunity to work with the most extraordinary people. That includes everybody who was interviewed in the film. So first of all, a tremendous thank you to the makers of the film, to the inspiration behind the film, and to everyone who participated in the film. And secondly, before I do actually share some remarks, I do want to make clear one thing. I am a fanatical Words with Friends player. I have never been kicked off an airplane, however, for wanting to make that last move. But I loved that board tonight. Ingrid and Frank, Doug and Lisa, Marcia and John, the Federation and the Endowment Fund, Jennifer and Nancy, and Mark, Sissy Swig, Lisa and John Pritzker. Did I forget anyone? I hope not, because what you have done for JCRC is something so exceptional tonight, way beyond anything I could have dreamed in my wildest dreams of what I might hoped for. And the fact that I actually had the discipline not to want to know anything about tonight and let it unfold, and that was the exclamation point. What an extraordinary gift you have given to this community, and to have also attached my name to it is something that I am so humbled by. Thank you all for that unbelievable generosity and your continued exemplary leadership. Each one of you is an extraordinary exemplar of community leadership. Can we all thank our gift givers? I've often said that I'm waiting for my first dull day at JCRC. And that's still true after 30 years with 2 sick days. In large part, the complete absence of tedium and sleep is a result of the unbelievable range of complex issues about which our community is passionate, that I've had the privilege to address, strategize about, confront, and even solve. It is also about the people inside and outside of JCRC who comprise an extraordinary set of interconnected communities who have played such an important role in this sacred work, you. On a recent Thursday, about a month ago, in addition to everything I planned to work on that day, JCRC was suddenly dealing with a new set of anti-Israel and anti-Muslim bus ads on Muni buses, and the challenges of balancing protection of free speech with the prospect of a Middle East war of words on our transit. Jewish leaders in Germany contacted JCRC that day, asking for urgent help to fight the efforts of anti-circumcision activists based on our experience in fighting the SF initiative. Parents, justifiably upset, sought our help in response to a Bay Area high school teacher so militantly anti-Israel that students were afraid they'd be punished for sharing their views. And press inquiries were coming in about the first and ultimately erroneous reports of Jewish involvement in a virulently anti-Muslim film used as a pretext for violent Middle East protests. One typical day, multiple issues that have a real impact on our community, that reverberate far beyond the Bay Area, and that require nuance, creativity, and relationship building to yield the best possible outcome. That's why I do love this work so much. The 7 minutes I've been allotted, precisely 14 seconds per year I've been at JCRC, well, actually 7 by Abby, 5 by Bethany, I think that means a total of 12, appropriately begins by sharing how truly blessed I feel. I feel so blessed to have had and to have, contrary to some of the notes I received, that this is not yet a retirement party. Well, at least with all the secret preparations, I wasn't informed that it is. That I've had both the opportunity and heavy responsibility to deal with the most serious issues that affect our community, to do so in my beloved San Francisco Bay Area with its unique history and endless vitality, ingenuity and beauty, to have the privilege of working side by side so many remarkable colleagues and lay leaders in our own community and in the broader community, to continue to be mentored as I have for 30 years by two of the greatest practitioners of Jewish community relations, Earl Rabb and Rita Semmel, to be surrounded on a daily basis by a staff of extraordinary professionals, each of whom brings a unique set of qualities required by JCRC, including passionate commitment combined with judicious temperament. And some of our colleagues have also served many years. Jackie Berman, who's here tonight, 29 years as our superb education consultant. Yitzhak Santis, who has returned from his aliyah to Israel for the week, 21 years at JCRC. And Lori Marshall, my executive assistant for 18 years, all of whom, along with all the staff, have made such an important contribution, and have had 30 years of uninterrupted, exemplary lay staff relations that has included benefiting continuously from the wisdom of our superb lay leadership. I cannot avoid naming some names and apologize for those I will inevitably leave out. If I so create a community relations problem in the process, please call the JCRC tomorrow morning for help. So let me begin in earnest with some words with and for friends by thanking everyone who came this evening for your support, whether you have been engaged with JCRC for weeks or for all 30 years or more. You collectively reflect JCRC's universe, our diverse Jewish community, the wide political spectrum through which JCRC finds common ground and with which JCRC serves as our community's exemplar of civil discourse and preserves the broad communal tent, and our treasured friends in the non-Jewish community. And again, an extraordinary thanks to Sissy Swig, to the Lisa and Doug Goldman Fund, and Lisa and Doug, Marcia and John Goldman, to Ingrid and Frank, and the Ingrid Tauber Philanthropic Fund of the Jewish Community Endowment Fund, Lisa and John Pritzker, and the SF-based Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund for their extraordinary gift tonight. I continue by thanking our outstanding past presidents and our current president, Geraldine Gelt, whose dedication and wisdom are so valued, along with that of our entire leadership. My colleagues who set such a high standard, the professional and lay leadership of the Jewish Community Federation, whose historic and continued support is never taken for granted, and with whom we enjoy a true partnership. And I might add, we are delighted that we crossed the Bay Bridge and partner with the Jewish Federation of the East Bay as well. There are no adequate words to express my gratitude to the people responsible for this evening's spectacular event. Eve and Alex and Julie, who with Eve's indomitable energy and force of nature walked into her first JCRC board meeting and said, "Doug's been here 30 years, let's get going." Bethany and Jim, Ingrid and Frank, I actually have some idea of what it takes to organize a major event, even while not having a clue about tonight's, and knowing that the tens and hundreds of hours that were spent were an act of tremendous love and hard labor. Your boundless creativity, extraordinary friendship, stellar leadership, and deep commitment are just some of the qualities that Ellen and I treasure in our friendship. Bethany, you have more creativity in one bone than most people have in their entire bodies. Tonight's production is an example of that. And Ingrid, your capacity for caring is truly unlimited. Tonight is, again, an example of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you that you applied your unique gifts to this event along with the time and love that went into it. It touches me beyond measure. I will treasure it always. To our development co-chair, Howard Kleckner, whose gentle and menschlich leadership sets an example for all. To our tiny development staff, to John and Jackie, thank you for the hours and hours of attention to detail and true care about the event. And to Abby. As always, you jump in and provide sterling professional leadership, just as you did when you initiated the Year of Civil Discourse, when you led our community's fight against the proposed circumcision ban, and which you do day in and day out. You've inspired me every day of your 13 years at JCRC. Thank you, and thank you to our entire outstanding staff. I also want to thank, in addition to the other folks who participated in tonight's program, Maha El-Ganadi, a treasured friend for so many years, for also joining with us tonight, as well as so many people who came from the broader community. Your presence here tonight is a reflection of what has meant so much to me to have valued and treasured these relationships and to have found common ground for all these years. So thank you so much. It may sound cliched, but the reality is that the support and love of my family is also beyond measure. Ellen has been at her law firm, which she now manages, for 30 years. She understands what it means to have a really short resume. While we compete for who burns the midnight oil each day, we share such a deep love and respect for each other that began the day we met, and you heard about how that happened. Ellen is truly my beshert, my life companion. My love for you only continues to grow every single day. That Daniel and Joey, along with Daniel's fiance, Euban, could join us this evening means the world to me, because I started my Jewish activism with a vow that grew out of my generation's questioning of American Jewry's response to the Holocaust. Namely, I wanted to be able to look at my children someday and be able to say, I did everything I could. We may argue lovingly about some political issue, but we share a passionate commitment for a just society and better world that may have started with carrying Daniel on my shoulders at rallies in front of the Soviet consulate. And indeed, Daniel and Joey, who are doing such inspirational work in Baton Rouge and Baltimore, respectively, care deeply about global issues, tikkun olam, and social activism. Being mensches and seeking to make a real impact, what more can one ask for? I love you all past the sky. I don't believe that in Jewish tradition anything is centered around one individual, but rather around the community. Tonight I accept gracefully and humbly the reality that the celebration is focused around 30 years. How could I not enjoy and be completely overwhelmed? But it is our collective commitment and advocacy that has achieved so much for our community and propels my own passion. There are issues on the agenda today that have been a constant these 30 years and more, and require perpetual vigilance, whether it is the scourge of anti-Semitism, the assault on Israel's legitimacy, the safeguarding of Jewish students on campus, or the latest civil rights struggle, most recently marriage equality. But at the same time, I marvel at what has been accomplished at JCRC in the past 3 decades, from a significant role in the struggle to free Soviet Jews, to the active engagement of Holocaust survivors in perpetuating the memory and lessons of the Shoah, from establishing the Jewish Coalition for Literacy that has helped thousands of young children in Title I schools learn how to read, to the creation of the Institute for Curriculum Services, from establishing JCRC as a first responder for our Jewish institutions suddenly facing the most sensitive community relations issues, to taking hundreds of top non-Jewish community leaders to see Israel with their own eyes on our annual JCRC Israel seminar. And now, as a result of tonight's gift, no doubt hundreds more, and many of our of our participants are here tonight, I'm thrilled to say, and will be so happy to know that this program will continue. From restoring the conditions for civil discourse in an increasingly polarized community to protecting the right of circumcision for future generations. Through our 4 C's, consensus, coalitions, civility, and community activism, I do believe we continue to make a major impact. But our job is hardly done. To sustain civil discourse in our community, JCRC must be strong. To ensure that every Jewish institution can get help on the sensitive community relations issues it faces, we must be strong. To be confident that Jewish student activists get the help from our community when issues materialize on campus, JCRC must be strong. To build coalitions and relations with key religious, ethnic, and other diverse communities so that we can multiply our collective impact on critical issues, we must be strong. To successfully manage the inevitable crisis issues that thrust themselves upon the communal agenda, JCRC must be strong. The role that Federation leaders envisioned for JCRC when we were founded more than 6 decades ago, born out of an understanding by the Jewish pioneers in San Francisco of the importance of the Talmudic principle of Mipnei Darchei Shalom, building relations with our non-Jewish neighbors for the sake of peace and goodwill. That role, to serve as the collective voice and advocacy arm of the organized Jewish community in pursuit of a just society and a secure Jewish future, utilizing nuance, a broad TED approach, and a determination to turn any challenge into an educational opportunity, has never been more important. Sure, some things do change. When I started, I was an optimist about the world out of conviction. Now I'm more an optimist out of faith. I simply refuse to let our detractors or enemies steal my optimism. The emergence of the internet era has given everyone a platform, making our task of achieving results behind the scenes occasionally more complicated, though many of our greatest successes are about the issues that never surface. And the Federation, once almost completely our total supporter of our annual budget, now actively encourages us to supplement their tremendous support with reaching out to the many in our community who value our work. The latest chapter in the invaluable Federation JCRC partnership is the encouragement of JCRC to build a legacy society in perpetuity. The very concept of legacy is in fact part of JCRC's DNA. From Queen Esther's relationship building that rescued the Jews of Shushan to today, community relations has been at the core of our people's experience and survival. As JCRC has rolled out its legacy society with the strong encouragement of the Federation, special thanks to those individuals who have already recognized the value of ensuring that we are strong in perpetuity, so that we can continue to devote ourselves to addressing the critical issues on our communal agenda. We look forward to the continued and rapid growth of the Legacy Society. It is critically important to JCRC and to me personally as I reflect back on what matters most, that our future be secure. At the end of the day, and Bethany, at the end of my remarks, I am filled with such profound gratitude for tonight and every day that I have had the privilege of being entrusted with addressing the most sensitive issues facing our community with nuance and strategic impact. The privilege of doing so with such an extraordinary group of people, and the privilege of taking a journey with so many exceptional leaders throughout the broader community with whom I have had the opportunity to work on countless issues of mutual concern. I humbly accept all 5 of the awards, particularly the one for being himself, because that one I cannot deny. And I will treasure this moment, this extraordinary evening that you put together as a labor of love, this extraordinary gift that all of you have given to our community, which will have an impact for generations to come, and for the opportunity to share this with my family. Thank you. I will treasure it always. Thank you. Thank you.
So isn't that fun? I think everyone had a really wonderful time tonight and a delicious meal. Thank you, Wendy. And we really, truly had a fabulous time putting this together. My heart is just beating watching Doug hear about the fund, the Doug Kahn Fund. Oh, I'm so excited. So as development co-chair with Howard Kleckner, I had the personal privilege to speak to so many of you. We knew we were going to have a terrific event, but have been truly astounded by the outpouring of support for JCRC and affection for Doug, making this clearly the most successful JCRC fundraiser yet. What a fitting tribute to Doug and to his leadership in our community. And so it's Alex's and my honor to have tonight's last remarks to our friend. Congratulations, Doug.
Well, I was asked to make some remarks, and I wrote about 30, 40 seconds, and Abby told me to cut it to 10. So, can you imagine being somewhere for 30 years, Doug? This is not a job for you. It's obviously a calling. And I actually look forward to your 60th. I'll be here. Thank you. 10 seconds.
So please join us in the atrium for dessert and take a moment to contribute a personal message. I think some of you were given cards to Doug for a special book, some more surprises, we are assembling. Make a point to stop by the table next to the bar. Thank you for your tremendous support of JCRC. I'll be calling you for your legacy gifts and for helping us to honor Doug. See you at the reception.